Thank you for joining me here for a conversation today.
Absolutely.
I wanted you to just kind of talk me through what you've been feeling and experiencing recently. Sounds like you had some concerns or questions about your relationship.
Yeah, so I have a husband who's young. He's an entrepreneur. He started many companies. I think he's on his fourth now. And so, as you can imagine, that takes up a lot of his time, which is great. I fully support him, love it. I knew what I was getting into, knew who I married. It's just hard when sometimes that takes priority, only because he's trying to grow up business. Make it profitable, all the above. So much of his attention goes into that company, which is great. And so, we have a family though, so it's a little bit hard to prioritize. So always a struggle. Some days are good, some days are bad. Again, love to support him. I really helped him out in the beginning of all these companies to kind of get people and payroll and all the systems set up, which has been fun because I've had involvement in it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he either sells it or it grows too big where I just don't even be involved. And so I have my own career too. I've been a counselor for a while, high school counselor. But with kids, it's kind of taken my front seat. So I've stopped doing that. But then kids need attention too, and so he's not always around for that, so it's kind of hard.
So it sounds like you really love what he does, and you love to be a part of it when you can, but when you're not, he's kind of forgetting the other half of things, maybe just not able to divert his attention from what he's doing to home.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't necessarily forget it, he just, it's more important in the moment. His kids are always there, even though they have important moments. Like, for example, he flew to Vancouver to see a client, and yet he needed to be home for his kids' first birthday party. So, important things, he's trying to manage both things. So, yeah, it's a little tricky.
Yeah, and it leaves you with a lot on your plate to manage. Yeah,
a lot of home life stuff, a lot of, kind of making sure things set up. And, he doesn't work normal hours. He works all the time. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm like, 5 o'clock he's home for dinner, It's like, maybe he's home for 5, maybe he's home for dinner. Maybe he takes a client out, and so I don't see him until next morning. So it's hard to manage expectations in his schedule, so fluid.
Do you feel like he appreciates all the work you're doing at home?
Yeah, so I feel like I'm not super appreciated just because he doesn't view my work raising his kids, right, as necessarily equal to what he's doing, raising a multi-million-dollar company. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to I don't know, I just don't always feel like he sees that my job is important, even though it is in a different way. But people don't value that. They value hard work. They value how much your company makes or how much it sells for. But raising kids is also raising the next generation. So I don't feel like he always sees me as doing the best. I don't know, doing the same job as he is in a way, because it's not doesn't produce the same outcome. So it's definitely hard. Absolutely.
And you almost have 2 full-time jobs with your counselor work and then also with raising the kids.
Right. Yeah. I've kind of dialed that down a little bit because kids are more important, but it's a lot. Yeah,
definitely. What does appreciation in a relationship look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question. Probably I think most is verbal acknowledgement of I see that you're doing this job. I see that it's just as important and it looks different, and I think that, I get that here and there, but it's also I don't think I get it enough. I don't think he views it as the same exact job. And that's a good question.
What is this relationship bringing of value to your life, your relationship with your husband? What's the value and the reward of the relationship?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, we met in college, we were young, and I fell in love pretty quick, and it's all about, him, my relationship with him, not necessarily what he's doing. It's what he's passionate about, I want to be passionate about too, and I am, right? But at the end of the day, it's our relationship needs to come first, even before our kids, and even before, I consider my job raising kids, right? But if it's not that, I don't know. I think
if you didn't have this relationship in your life, what would it look like? What would be different?
Oh gosh, a lot. And I talked to you about it, and it's I'm happy for it. I'm glad that we have that, right? And with without that relationship, I wouldn't have him. So like that's the whole reason, you know, we're together and we're doing all this is to do something together. And hopefully at the end of the day, a couple years, you know, years down the road, be able to enjoy life more and have money to do so and travel and all that stuff. And right now we're just kind of in this like autopilot mode to just kind of make money, be successful, and then be able to, you know, pay for our kids' stuff and also enjoy time together when we retire, hopefully earlier than normal. But yeah, it's just almost like thinking about the future and hoping that we can eventually get to that point. But you know, it's a bumpy ride on the way, so it's not always easy. But it's nice to think about the future because knowing I want to be with him forever. You know, so like again, I support him, love what he's doing. I wish he saw me more and what I was doing as more just as important as his job. But end of the day, yeah, love him, and I want to be with him forever. So whatever he loves, I want to be. I want to love too.
That's great.
But
That's
I want him to love what I'm doing, and I mean, he loves his kids. I'm not saying that. Like loves them, always there when he can. He just he's not always there for, you know, bedtime tuck-in stuff. So.
Yeah, and it sounds like that reward of, you know, we get through these tough times where we don't get to see each other as much and things are a little tumultuous and you're having to do a lot on the back end that's going unseen, but you have that in your head of we are working hard now for a payoff in the future. It sounds like it's pretty important to you.
Yeah, totally important, right? And it's also hard too because you think, well, maybe we're not guaranteed the future either, so we got to take these moments when they come, right? So I think sometimes that gets pushed out of the way.
Yeah, I could. What do you think your husband would say he's getting out of your guys' relationship?
I think just having someone at the end of the day to support him is all that he really needs. You know, I feel like if you're doing this alone, you're going hard at it, like you just kind of want someone to support you or just bounce ideas off of, you know, especially with the position he's in at running these companies, right? It's just, he has to be the best of himself all the time because he's a leader, right? And so he doesn't have anyone to kind of just degress at the end of the day or, you know, decompress, however you want to call it, and process life with. So I think he values that, you know, relationship, knowing that we're kind of in it together forever and he can be fully honest with me and maybe not all of his employees. So yeah, I think just the kind of the partnership in life and being able to bounce ideas off each other and communicate and process is big for him. Yeah.
So it sounds like when the two of you do have time together, he's bringing you in, talking about the future of the businesses, and making you a part of it. So you're feeling like you are still contributing to it and you are still being a part of moving your guys' business together forward.
Yeah. And like, and the success of his business will benefit me in the long run. So like, I want to do everything I can to support him. And like, sometimes that means letting him go off and doing client visits or stuff every evening where he's not home and stuff, which is, you know, I'd have to sit back and remember, like, okay, yeah, this is good. This is for the long run. But, it's hard because they add up, right? You know, you get 4 in a week. It adds up to a lot of, you know, you're not here, you're not seeing your family, you miss events. It's tricky.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you think he feels that you appreciate him?
Sure hope so. You know, I feel like I tell him that enough. I feel like I'm more vocal about it than he's more vocal about what I do. And yeah, I mean, just like any action items I can do to help support him, especially in the beginning when I did, you know, I ran like payroll and stuff like that.
That's huge.
Yeah, I was very much involved and it was fun because we had the moment in time where we're, you know, closer together and then it got too big and I wanted to do my own thing. So we separated that, but really coming together at nights when we can and do have that time. It's really beneficial to kind of process that.
Yeah. Does thinking about how you want that or need that appreciation or just acknowledgement of what you're doing, does that increase desire in you to show him you appreciate him? Or do you feel like you're really showing him, he's just not reciprocating as much?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how men work, you know. They're not necessarily the first person to see that. And even as much as I support him, it's not necessarily a natural thing for him to be like, oh, I also see you, you know. So it just the simplest gesture, either, you know, an action, something like flowers, like, hey, I appreciate what you do, or just something vocal. It goes so much further than I feel like what I do to support him. But yeah, I think that the more I realize, like, hey, I need to support you and your business, I realize how much you're doing, and wanting to prepare our family for the future. Telling him that, I think he's more likely to say that back, and recognizing that I have a different job, looks different than his, and equally as important, right? But I just don't think it's always at his forefront, to say that and share that. So more I can do to really tell him that, I think just helps, because he sees that I see value in him and his career, and he can hopefully see that in mine, even though it's not a job, right? It is what it isn't, right? It's not I got kids and I gotta raise them, so it's kind of what I have to do.
It sounds to me like, to put it in just really blunt terms, the cost of what you're dealing with right now and struggling with, which is really valid, but the cost of that doesn't outweigh the overall benefits and rewards that you have by being in a solid, committed relationship with someone who you really care about.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great way to put it. Yeah.